Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson today. We're listening to One Night Stand Has Life Changing Consequences. This is my ex con.
I've been in jail 5 days. He wants to see love in this. Seeing me locked up, can't go anywhere. I didn't want any of this. And the last person I wanted to see was my ex-boyfriend. If you confess, you'll get a couple of years with good behavior. But if you keep stonewalling, they'll put you away for 25 years. But I also knew that facing him was the only chance I had of proving that I was innocent. Prisoners move forward. 5 days earlier, I was at the coffee shop where I work, and this guy with a badge walks in and tells me I'm under arrest. At first, I thought it was a joke. Turn left. Until he put handcuffs on me and reads me my rights. It was the most terrifying experience I've ever had. When he told me I was being held for armed robbery, actually 3 armed robberies, I figured the cops would realize their mistake, and I'd be home in an hour. I was wrong. Who looks familiar? Anyone? Look at them one at a time. Do you see the woman who robbed you? Take your time. Number 3, please step forward. When they called my number, I figured they just wanted to get a closer look so I could finally get my stuff and leave. She the one who tied you up? Yes. Fired a gun into the air. That's her. The woman who robbed you is her. Number 3. Thank you. I'd only lived in Los Angeles a few months, and I barely knew anyone in town except for my boss, assuming I still had a job. I didn't want to call my mother and have her fly out from Michigan because I was sure it would all be over by the end of the day, but it just got worse.
I've been on the force some 19 years. I've seen a lot of weird things. But this is one of the strangest cases I've ever handled.
Points for originality. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never broken a law in my life.
This is what we call a slam dunk, Cindy. And you're looking at 25 years minimum.
Unless you can help me out. It was insane. I was being held on $1 million bail, and I'd been sitting in this concrete room for 4 hours talking to one cop after another. I don't know what to tell you.
Other than the victims, we had no witnesses. But every case had the same MO and the same description of the perpetrator.
Okay, case number 1. 2 weeks ago, this woman, this liquor store clerk, says a woman jams a gun in her face. She duct tapes her to a shelf in the storage area. And steals $700. Customer finds her on the floor. They call the cops.
I've never seen this one before in my life.
The victim was an illegal immigrant, so I was actually surprised she came forward.
Well, her description at the time matches you. 3 days later, a bartender is walking to his motorcycle after his shift. Once again, a woman robs him at gunpoint. Apparently, he doesn't whip out the cash fast enough, so she fires shots off into the air. And she made her point because then he hands over $120 in cash, his tips for that night.
I don't even own a gun. I've never even held a gun.
And we found shell casings at the scene, backing up the victim's story.
He identified you from the lineup, and he described your car and half the license plate. How do you explain that?
I can't. They're lying.
We're not done yet. Here's number 3, my new favorite. This construction worker. He's walking home and gets robbed by a woman. She handcuffs him to a pole. Then she goes running down the alley to her car. And guess what? Once again, he describes a silver sedan. Does any of this ring a bell?
It just went from bad to worse. Evidence, eyewitnesses, and at this point I'm thinking, I'm going to jail for a really long time.
The next day, this guy named Gary shows up counting. He claiming to be Cindy's boyfriend, asking if he can speak with him. I asked the guy a few questions about what he knew. He seemed clueless, so I let him see her.
What are you doing here, Gary? I made it clear I don't want to see you.
I listened in on their conversation, but I didn't need to hear a word to know she couldn't stand this guy. You could tell just by looking at him that these two had some bad history between them.
They're asking me, why would you do this?
I didn't do this, Gary. Then you should believe that.
You know, if you needed money, all you had to do was ask me.
When I broke up with Gary a month ago, I hoped I'd never have to see him again. So when he showed up at the jail, I really had no idea how he knew where to find me.
You have to take responsibility for your own actions. If you confess, you'll get a couple of years with good behavior. But if you keep stonewalling, they'll put you away for 25 years.
It was really strange. This guy dates this woman for months, and he doesn't even seem surprised that his ex-girlfriend was arrested for 3 armed robberies. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
You know, just leave. I'd rather get a death penalty than keep talking to you.
Cindy.
I would have given anything to go back in time and to never have met Gary in the first place. At the time, I used to manage this little coffee shop in West Los Angeles. The pay was terrible, but I was able to work there days so I could go to school at night.
Nice.
And since I was new in town, it gave me a chance to meet people.
Hey, guys. Hello. How's it going? Good. Good to see you.
Gary came into the shop a lot, almost every day.
It's your coffee, because I can't stop.
And I guess I was flattered by the attention.
And it reminded me, how's work going? You did something pretty cool. What was it? Remind me.
Oh, well, I'm a private investigator.
Really? What's like the craziest thing that's happened so far?
About 6 months ago.
And at the time, he seemed sweet and totally harmless.
I don't know, what you do after you leave, but I'd like to give you this and give me a call.
Before long, we started hanging around together, first as friends, but then it got more serious. We spent a lot of time at Gary's apartment just watching TV. He'd watch those procedural crime dramas one after another. He'd do it all night if I'd let him.
I like my shows.
He actually used to keep score on which one of us could figure out how the killer committed the murder. It was like he was obsessed. I really wanted our relationship to work, but things got bad fast. Gary would forget to pick me up from work.
Where have you been?
When he finally showed up, we'd get in a fight and he'd take off and leave me stranded. He would disappear for days at a time without any explanation. So finally, about 4 months into the relationship, I had enough.
What's going on?
Packed your bag.
I hadn't seen or heard from him for almost 2 weeks. Then he calls me at 3 a.m. and says he's coming over.
You're packing my bag. What, are you kicking me out?
Yes.
Wait, you're kicking me out? No.
I was doing everything I could not to make him angry.
You pack my bag and put me out.
I just can't do it anymore.
What do you mean you can't do this anymore?
I'm sorry.
I was afraid to even look at him.
Just calm down.
Calm down, me? You want to see angry? Nobody kicks me out. Nobody kicks me out.
I thought that was the worst thing that Gary could ever do to me. I was wrong.
This case was a no-brainer. 3 witnesses, all strangers to each other.
That's her. That's her. It's her.
Claimed this coffee shop manager held them up at gunpoint, took their money, and tied them up. 2 of them got a partial license plate. This was like a DA's dream case.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never broken a law in my life.
Well, we've got 3 eyewitnesses that say you did, and all 3 picked you out of the lineup.
But I knew it would be a lot easier if I could just get a confession.
I I'd been in jail for 5 days. And every day the detective would show up and we'd go through it all over again.
You need to talk to me.
I was so sure the cops would realize the mistake that I never really looked at the photos of the victims. Until that day.
Take a look.
The face looked a little familiar, but I definitely recognized that scar. I'd met that guy.
Now, this guy loves cheese dinners.
At the coffee shop with Gary.
I know this guy. This is Gary's friend. I waited on him once in a coffee shop. He had that long scar down his arm.
At first, I thought it was a lame attempt to put the blame on her ex-boyfriend. So I decided to do a background check on Gary. Comes up nothing. Gary doesn't exist. So I asked Cindy to call him in for a meeting.
He must be loving this. Seeing me locked up, can't go anywhere.
All he told me was to get Gary talking about anything.
I didn't want any of this.
As soon as Gary left, I lifted the prince off the phone and ran him. Turned out there were warrants out for his arrest all over the country. So I brought the victim back in and put a little pressure on him. He told me everything. He and Gary were old buddies. Then I brought in the other two victims, and they fessed up to what happened. Gary was pretty smart, I'll give him that. He told them he was an undercover cop.
You know, you're in big trouble here.
And they'd be helping him put away a dangerous criminal.
I can help you. If you work with me.
So they lied for him.
I want you to look at some pictures.
It was Gary who duct taped the first victim to the poles
It's gonna be okay, Willie. Don't worry about it.
and stole the money from the register.
Now, you remember these pictures?
Yes, sir.
He showed the woman my picture so she could describe me to the police and pick me out of a lineup later.
You got it?
Yes.
Okay.
The second crime?
Okay, these are her bullets.
Gary left the shell casings at the scene.
Okay, look at this again.
Then he showed the victim pictures of Cindy, her vehicle, and the license plate.
Remember that.
He did the same thing with the third phony victim.
Perfect. Okay. You got it. All right. Okay.
It all made sense. He was obsessed with those crime dramas because he was studying them.
But I couldn't figure out why he chose to target illegal immigrants. So I did some research on my own. He promised them something called victim visas. If you're the victim of a violent crime in the U.S., you can apply for an automatic visa and stay here.
So do we have a deal?
Yes. He even lied to me about being a private detective.
I did something pretty cool. What was it? Remind me.
I'm a private investigator.
Really?
In my entire career, I have never seen anyone go to such great lengths to frame their ex. This guy was clearly crazy.
I didn't do it, Cindy.
Cindy was freed the next day. And Gary took her place.
I've never done anything like this. I'm innocent. Cindy, come on.
We charged him with 3 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud and impersonating a police officer.
Cindy, what did you do it? Cindy, get back here.